Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Word on the Street, and today is Silver Monday. So thanks to the sponsor of this video, I'm going to give away 5 ounces of silver, or I'm going to give you a chance to win 5 ounces of silver on this video. So stay tuned for the very simple instructions that you'll need in order to enter. In addition to that, towards the end of the video, I'm going to go ahead and disclose who the winner of last week's 4 ounces of silver was. And before we continue, I want to say thank you to everyone that came and joined in on the live stream yesterday. We had a great time, and I was able to give away a whole bunch of stuff because of our awesome sponsors. So whenever I have a sponsor, ladies and gentlemen, don't get angry. Support them, because I try my very best to pick responsible people to work with that are going to be good for the community and not just for themselves. But let's go ahead and talk about some of the big news that I see coming out today. And the first thing we're going to cover is going to be something that is going to be life-changing for everyone in the world, not just for us here in the U.S. And we've actually been covering this for the last 2 or 3 years or so, because it's very important that we stay abreast of what's going on in other places so that we can prepare for here, wherever you are. Right? Here for me, it's in the United States, but wherever you are, you're going to need to prepare for this, because this is coming one way or another. Remember the BRICS? Remember those BRICS nations that they were developing their own currency, and then they were threatened by our government, telling them, hey, anyone that interacts in this currency and not the US dollar, we're going to go ahead and sanction you. We're going to go ahead and put 100% tariffs on you, etc. Well, guess what? They're not listening, because the unit, which is the name of the currency that they're going to come out with collectively, is coming out here soon in 2026. And in my opinion, that's going to have a great impact on the global financial markets. And wait until you hear what they're going to be using in order to implement this system. The unit project, first revealed by Sputnik in 2024, is emerging as the most viable option for breaking the US dollar's stranglehold on global trade and investment. And unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, that's just the truth. When you have one reserve currency around the world and you have one centralized source of power that is in control of that currency, it is very easy to manipulate other nations that need that currency in order for them to interact in the global economy. And unfortunately, that's where we find ourselves as the United States of America. We've taken advantage of the reserve currency of the world to, instead of trying to make it a fair trade currency, to go ahead and use it against other countries that did not want to play along with the demands of Washington, D.C. Am I saying that some of the countries on these lists are good countries? In my opinion, no. But still, trade brings people together. It gets people to talking. But when we segregate each other because of our differences and stop talking, that's when bad things happen. The unit is essentially a benchmark token, or an index token, a post-stablecoin digital monetary tool, totally decentralized. That is the reason why our lives will change if this happens, because a decentralized currency cannot be manipulated. Just like gold, if gold were left to be what it is, instead of all of these manipulative strategies that they've used over the last several decades by making paper gold and putting out more gold than what actually exists just because a piece of paper says it. If that didn't happen, then we would be just fine as a world. Trust me, we would be just fine as far as how we trade and how the money that you earn holds its value. But the reason that the BRICS are doing this is not necessarily because they want to ensure that the money that they use holds its value. They would love to still continue, the governments, they would love to still continue to be able to manipulate the value of that currency that they're using in their respective countries in order to be able to control their people. But a decentralized currency is exactly what the powers that be do not want, because it gives control to the person that holds it and not the entity that governs it. Anyways, going on. And with intrinsic value anchored in real assets like gold and sovereign currencies. And that's why when we say sovereign currencies, people are going to say, well, sovereign currencies are just fiat currencies. Well, take a look at all of the gold that central banks around the world have been hoarding. This is what's going to back up their sovereign currencies. The unit is to be launched early next year on the Cardano blockchain, which uses digital currency, ADA. That's actually one of the cryptocurrencies that I was touting about years ago. And it is, in fact, a decentralized currency. For those of you that don't understand the difference between centralization and decentralization when it comes to cryptocurrencies, centralization is exactly what it sounds like. It's all of the power being held by the governing entity that governs that currency. Decentralization is having a unit of exchange that you can trade with where you, the person that holds those private keys digitally, has the power over those private keys, and that no one can really manipulate your transactions or what those keys are worth. They're worth whatever number of ADA units you have in them per se. A concise definition of the unit would be a resilient reserve of value, backed by a structure of 60% gold and 40% diversified BRICS currencies. And do you know what the BRICS unit is, ladies and gentlemen? It's the same thing that's going to happen in Western nations as well. The BRICS unit is the next financial system that a block of countries are going to turn into because their fiat currency system has failed. And when I say that, we here in the Western world, the United States, France, Europe, etc., right? That we're going to head into a new paradigm, that this financial system of fiat currency is near its end. That's exactly what I mean. It's the same thing that's happening with the BRICS nations now. They are entering into a new paradigm, and so will we. So ask yourselves a question about gold and commodities, let's say. Do you think that people in those nations that are going to convert over to a currency that is 60% backed by gold, those people that currently own gold, when that conversion takes place, do you think that they'll be better off or worse off? And I'll go ahead and answer it. It's kind of like a rhetorical question. They'll be better off because 60% of that currency is going to be backed by gold, which means that it gives renewed value to gold that people did not know that had it. So a lot of people that don't even know about gold, now they're going to know about gold and they're going to understand that they need to have some in order to protect themselves. Once a fiat currency system ends, it's usually because it ran out of runway and people no longer trust it. In order for a fiat currency system to work, there has to be trust and confidence behind it. And people all over the world are losing trust in the fiat currency system that we've been playing with here for the last several decades, if not over 100 years. How can we transition from the present fiat money system to a sound money standard like we once had in the United States and the world? It's going to hurt a lot of people, especially those people that are not prepared for it. And here they continue to say, clearly the gold standard was superior, whereas we now have a fiat standard that has mired the world in debt and big government. A central bank digital currency with programmable debt-based money and omnipresent surveillance is a dystopian nightmare of which many dream. And unfortunately, I think that's where we're going to head to first before we actually head to a real sound money system. Why? Because governments do not want to give up power once they have it. And with sound money, it is we, the people, that have the power. And with fiat currency, it is the government that has the power. And if you all remember the Basel III rule, which happened about 3 years ago, I think it was in July of 22. Here they say 22. I think it was July 1st, 22. It pretty much made gold a tier 1 asset. The only other tier 1 asset in the world, meaning the safest monetary asset that there is, tier 1 asset, is the US dollar or US bonds. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So 3 years ago, we were talking about this here on this channel. Basel III made gold just as credible as the dollar, even though it had always been. They just changed the rule book because they know what's coming. So since they know what's coming and they're changing these rules, you need to know what's coming so that you can protect yourselves. Another critical fact, more banks are today accepting gold and silver as collateral for dollar-based loans. This is a form of backdoor monetization. And for those of you that don't know, starting next year in 2026, India is going to start doing the same thing. They're going to start allowing people to use gold and silver as collateral for monetary loans that they can get from a bank, which is something that they never used to do. Why? Because, of course, gold is a barbarous relic. This is a form of backdoor monetization. It is a small step for a liquid and portable metal to serve as money, with on and off ramps being provided by the banks themselves. Gold is already allowed to be used this way, and silver is on its way toward this status. So do you understand how they're changing the game here? How for several decades banks were like, oh, gold is, you don't need gold. Gold is the worst investment, which it's not an investment, but you don't want to hold gold. It costs you money to hold. But now they're hoarding the gold. And now they're saying, hey, we're going to go ahead and reclassify gold as one of the safest assets in the world to use for collateral, to use for one-on-one debt with the US dollar. So why all of a sudden did they change their minds? Because the game is almost over. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you very much, first and foremost, to Alpha Omega Gold, who is the sponsor of this video. Now, Alpha Omega Gold is a great company, in my opinion, that helps people bring their 401ks, IRAs into a retirement form that holds physical silver and physical gold. That way, when the balloon pops, you'll at least have some of your wealth still there instead of having it burn up into the inferno of inflation, which is what I like to call it. They also sell physical silver and physical gold that you can take possession of right away. The thing is that some people find themselves in a quagmire where they may have a 401k or IRA or something like that, that they can't transfer over to cash without taking a really big hit. Well, Alpha Omega Gold will work with you one-on-one and help you figure that out if you find yourselves in that predicament. And in addition to that, Alpha Omega Gold has been so generous to us this year as a community. They're the ones that have given me all the silver that I've been giving away during these videos and that I gave away yesterday during our live stream. And they're the ones that donated a huge check to go to the food bank over here in Fairbanks, Alaska. So I want to say thank you very much to Alpha Omega Gold for sponsoring this video. And if you're interested or in the market, go check them out. I'm going to leave their link and their phone number on a pinned comment and on the description of this video. Another conspiracy theory, ladies and gentlemen, that has turned out to be real. And you all remember several years ago, the big hype about ivermectin. Well, there's 5 states, Texas being the 5th one, that has passed a bill or an executive order. Let's see, Texas law allowing ivermectin to be sold over the counter goes into effect. Texas is the 5th state that has done this. And why are they doing this? Because it's so dangerous, right? Actually, ivermectin, from what I remember reading, I'm not a doctor or any kind of medical professional. Ivermectin is one of the safest drugs that has ever been put out. And in many other countries, it is already an over-the-counter medication. The Texas law allowing ivermectin to be sold over the counter went into effect December 4th, but rollout appears to be slow as pharmacies wrestle with how to proceed. So obviously it's going to take a little bit of time in order for the system to get in line so that it can allow customers to come and buy that right off the shelf. This is one of 3 reasons that I found on recent articles why we in the United States are in the predicament that we're in with inflation and obviously the cost of living. Generational betrayal. HUD reveals that Biden gave illegal aliens FHA-backed mortgages. Have you seen what the price of houses have done in the last 4 or 5 years? Have you seen what the price of rents have done in the last 4 or 5 years? Well, ladies and gentlemen, a big part of that is because a lot of people flooded the United States in the last 4 or 5 years and have created that housing shortage. And how did they flood the United States? Well, you all know what the story is. I don't need to get into that. But had this not happened, we would have no affordability problems in the U.S., and we definitely would not have as high of an inflation in the price of things that we currently have, would it not have been for all the monies that not just the prior administration printed out of thin air, but all administrations. So that's one of the reasons why we find ourselves in the predicament that we're in today, with people having to live out of their cars or vans, or losing their houses and moving into a small RV, etc. And this is the second one, ladies and gentlemen. One of the reasons why we find ourselves in the predicament that we are in now, with affordability and national debt and taxes going up and the interest on the debt going up, etc., is because we have a problem with laws or bills. It seems that whenever they pass a bill, they don't pass the bill as it is stated on the title. It's part of the bill, but then you have another 1,000 pages of earmarked pork fat that's going to go to all of these other programs that the people don't find out about until it's too late. I remember years and years and years ago when I think it was Obama that was running for president. I think it was the first time. He says something like this, if I remember right. He said, I'm going to make sure that before we pass a law, that the American people will have at least 48 hours or 72 hours, something like that, to be able to read the entire thing before it is signed into law. Did that ever happen? No. Does it happen now? No. It doesn't matter who's in office. The government is a big machine that needs to be fed, and it is fed with your labor, ladies and gentlemen, and this is just one example of them. When people are making themselves rich because we were not allowed to read the law before it was passed. You have to pass it before you read it. Leave on the comments who said that. You have to pass the law before you can read it. Leave it in the comments who said that. And remind me that I still have to let you all know who the winner of last week's 4 ounces of silver is, and have you enter for this week's 5 ounces of silver. But we're almost done, okay? I'm going to stop my jabbing here in about 1 more minute, because I have one more thing, the third thing that I want to show you that I could find in recent news that lets us know why we are in the predicament that we are here in the United States. It's because we have inflation, ladies and gentlemen, in college degrees. Remember, when you inflate the money supply, it means that you add more money to the money supply, making the money there already worth less, right? It makes the money worth less because there's more of it. It takes more dollars to buy the same stuff. What happens when you have an overabundance of college degrees? And whose fault is it that we have an overabundance of college degrees? I would say primarily the government. And why is that? Oh, AP, you're such a government hater. No, I'm not. I believe in government. I believe in small government that is there for we, the people, because we, the people, are supposed to be the masters of government. Government is not supposed to dictate to us, we the people, how we live our lives or what percentage of our labor we are supposed to give to them. But let me tell you real quick why it is that we have such a big problem with college debt. It's because the government got into the college loan business. The government said, all right, we're going to go ahead and guarantee anyone that goes to college, we're going to guarantee you a loan. You don't have to go out there and get a loan yourself. You don't have to come home on the summers or during the summers to work so that you can pay for your tuition. You don't have to do any of that anymore. We're going to guarantee your loan. So go to college, have a great time, and start taking those loans out. And what happens 50 years later? Well, 50 years later, we have about a 1.6, 1.7 trillion dollars worth of student loan debt, and these degrees that are coming out of college, there is so much abundance that they're worth a lot less. Nearly 2/3 of Americans now say that college degrees are not worth the cost. Why is that? Because it took this much time in order for the country as a whole to realize that we've been bamboozled. College loans are the only loan that you cannot declare bankruptcy for. Why do you think they did that? So teach your children, if you're going to go to college, we have to find a way where you won't have any college loans once you graduate. And also make sure that they're going to actually do a degree that's going to be beneficial to society, where they're going to be able to earn a living instead of being a barista full time for the rest of their lives. Enough jabbering. Let's go ahead and give away that 4 ounces of silver from last week's video. And then, you know what? The code word for you to be able to enter to win 5 ounces of silver from this video right here. Now listen carefully, ladies and gentlemen, all right? All you have to do is put college, C-O-L-L-E-G, in the comment. You can integrate the word college into a comment, or you can just put college in a comment and you will be entered to win, and I will announce the winner during next Monday's video. All right, so good luck to all of you that entered today, and I'm very happy that I am able to do this. So let's go ahead and pick our last week's winner. Okay, here is our random generator, and this is the link or the URL for that video. And now it's no included replies, just original comments. And now we're going to go ahead and load up our comments. Let's see how many we have this week, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, we had a lot this last week's video, 1,665 original comments, and this is going to be the winner. But you know that I have to remind you that whoever wins, you need to email me to this email address right here. I think it'll show up right there. Email me to this email address. You will have until next Sunday to email me with your information. If not, you will forfeit your prize. Make sure you email me, okay? All I need is your name, the shipping address, because if I don't get your information by next Sunday, you're going to forfeit 4 ounces of silver, and that's a $200 bill, ladies and gentlemen. And remember to enter for this video for a chance to win 5 ounces of silver that I'll be giving away next Monday from this video's entries. All right, so let's see who the winner is. Good luck to all of you. And there you go. Jan Frey Burgers. Jan Frey Burgers 6129. You are the winner. Congratulations to you. Let me go ahead and take a print screen of this real quick. If you weren't on yesterday's live stream, 4 ounces of silver is 8 times more silver than what everyone in the world would have if we equally divided all of the silver that exists in the world right now. So Jan Frey, you just got 8 times more silver than what anyone in the world could have if we equally divided all of the silver in the world. All right, so congratulations. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure that you enter to win. God bless every one of you. God bless America. I love you all. Thank you very much to the sponsor of this video, Alpha Omega Gold. I'm Alaska Prepper. I am out.